How is a giant touchscreen controlling basic functions of a car not distracted driving? Why is this legal for car manufacturers to make? Car manufacturers have, historically, been dragged into safety and regulation kicking and screaming. This is the industry that lobbied for years against requiring seat belts. They will do the thing until someone makes a law against it. Unless an overarching law is written giving the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration the kind of thou shall not pass approval that say, the FDA has over approving new drugs. This will always be a game of whack-a-mole. They do something unsafe, a law will be made. A new technology proves to drive down traffic deaths. A law will eventually be made to require it in all vehicles, much to the chagrin of the auto industry lobbyists. Your screens are so strong it made the guy behind you hit you. Don't use your small phone to text at a light. Any issues with your car? Use this huge iPad and struggle to go through multiple menus. WTF, I would never buy a car that doesn't have manual controls for essential functions. You got rear-ended because the person behind you didn't account for you stopping. When I read that you got in a fender bender, I was prepared to tell you to stop moving while you find the controls. The touchscreen controls are problematic, but didn't cause this fender bender. It is distracting. The only reason it's legal is because legislation moves a lot slower than technical innovations. The reason OEM went down this route is, unsurprisingly, cost. Buying a single screen and connecting it to the onboard computer with a single cable and connector is much simpler than buying dozens of individual switches and having wire each one directly to the component it controls. Unless driverless cars take over, I think it will be outlawed fairly soon though. Manufacturers are starting to go back to physical controls. They've started to realize how dumb it is. That's why, and this is not an ad, just something I noticed while test driving lately, I like Mazda. Pretty much everything can be done via a joystick interface, so you can do it by touch. The screens aren't touch. Still didn't buy the car, but I like the approach. The title is a valid point, but the text to go with it is pretty silly. Don't blame yourself or your car for someone running into the back of it. You came to a stop in a lane of travel? No physical button is going to fix that. Unpopular opinion. People should only buy a car after knowing how some of the most used features work. Also, they are just ugly as fuck. I would kill for a 2024 model vehicle with no infotainment system. Just needs a clock and a Bluetooth radio. Knobs, buttons and dials. Mazda does it right with the rotary dial joystick and dedicated buttons. I'm with you. Don't give me screens, give me more physical buttons. I'm watching the road, not the screens. TBH, it seems like the issue was with you being unfamiliar with your car. This would be akin to not knowing where a certain button is. What car do you have? Because you're supposed to defog before driving, not during? I call BS on having to go through a bunch of screens to defog. Which car? Take some responsibility. Your windows aren't some random device. The conditions for fog were apparent. You don't start driving until everything is set and stable. I don't fumble around to figure out how to turn the headlights on while I'm making a turn. I set the lights to be appropriate before I begin. I agree that certain controls should have physical buttons. At the same time, you're supposed to get things like the HVAC sorted before you start driving. I'd also be willing to bet that if you have that big screen, then you probably also have voice commands as an option. Hey Tesla, max defrost seems like it would be less distracting than even pushing a button.